So the most latest event that Fun Child hosted was the Paintball Warfare, and that took place yesterday, November 8th, and I think that it went really really well, actually, really well for a first time, because it was our first time doing an event like this, and there were a lot of issues with the event. There were definitely things that we can improve on, but for a first time, I think it went rather well. It was pretty successful, and I enjoyed myself. Although it was a long day and it rained at the end, and everything was a little bit messy. I think that it was a good experience for everybody overall. But there are definitely things that I'd like to address that were issues with the event. Um, Firstly, I'd like to talk about how the event itself was there were a lot of ethical issues that were involved with the event in itself, which is why I didn't really want to do it in the first place either, as I mentioned in previous reflections. I think that the whole idea of having a paintball tournament is that it's paintballing, and that is using a gun with balls of paint and like bullets of paint, and you're shooting at other people. And the issue that I have with not paintballing, but the issue that I personally have with paintballing in Dar es Salaam, is that the actual bullets of paint are not of good quality. So they're actually meant to burst when they hit a person's body, and burst in time so that it doesn't actually make a mark on it. You don't usually get bruised when you're paintballing, but the issue with the paintballs that are used in Dar are that they're of such bad quality that they really really end up injuring a lot of people. So at the event, there were a couple of people. For example, Sunima had a massive bruise on her neck, and she was bleeding like endlessly. She would not stop bleeding, and there were a lot of people that had bruises covered all over their body, and some bruises that may even last really long, by the looks of it. Another issue that I thought was concerning was the fact that I really think that 7th graders and 8th graders should not have been allowed to participate in this event, because I don't think that sort of like paintballing should really be for kids that age, and it's sort of, I mean, it's gonna hurt them, because the balls aren't the bullets are not strong enough. So I really didn't think that 7th graders and 8th graders should have been there. I thought it would have been something for 9th graders and above, but even then I thought it was not really the best idea to have the the paintball event as a whole, because of the injuries that it would cause. And another issue that I had was with the game that I myself was conducting. As part of the creativity department, we had to come up with different games and different activities that people would be doing whilst waiting for their turn to play in the tournament against another team. And I'd come up with a couple of games, and one of them that I didn't really know the game, but somebody else came up with the game, and I kind of went with it, and it was called Lucky Seven, and I explain it further in a written reflection. But according to me, that game was very unethical, because it sort of encouraged gambling. And a lot of the problem was to do with the fact that 7th graders were the ones that were coming to me most. Like, I barely saw people from higher grades actually coming to the Lucky Seven stall. Another thing that I thought could have been improved was the fact that it wasn't that our event wasn't really tied to school, and we couldn't advertise in the bulletin and all of that sort of thing, because they weren't really happy with the fact that we were having a paintball tournament, and in a way it encouraged, it had guns and everything. So I don't think the school was ready to be a part of that, to be associated with that event. And I think that was a huge problem in terms of advertising, because we were struggling to get teams, and we managed to get them at the end, but it was with a lot of difficulty, and we were really unsure of how the actual tournament would actually take place. Another thing was with the sponsors. I wasn't really in that department properly, but I heard that there were amongst ourselves we discussed that there was an issue with the sponsors, and the prizes that we were given were things that were very, very insufficient for the tournament. For example, we've had prizes such as like trips to Zanzibar, hotel stays, and all of that sort of thing. And the prize that we had was a bicycle for the first team that wins, and that's an issue because there are 6 players in a team, and it doesn't make sense to even have one bike as a prize. So I was the one who addressed that this was a concern, and I asked our presidents, Saj and Dhruv, if they could maybe help change the situation, and they decided that they would put in a million shillings as prize money, and I think that was definitely better, and that stuck to the standards that we have as a cast group. So that was one thing that went well. I think the overall tournament was quite nice. I enjoyed being there. It was very, very hot, but then it rained at the end, which was nice, but also things had to be stopped and packed away. An issue was that it was very far away, so that a lot of people were not able to come last minute, which was very disappointing. But the fact that our concern is to get the money so that we can fund the children. So 1 or 2 people missing was not that big of an issue, but I think there were a little bit more than that. And I think for me, it's also important that the event itself runs successfully. So that was a little bit disappointing. And I think in the future, maybe a major thing would be to have different events and locations that are more close by, and cater to all kinds of all people in a sense, and also have it more ethical. And I really think that it should be linked with the school, because then advertising is a lot better. It's more successful. More people know about it. More people want to do it. Yeah.